Last week, the Senate confirmed the appointment of Yemi Cardoso as governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria and 4 others as deputy governors who have been assigned portfolios. With this confirmation by the Red Chamber, the entire board of the Central Bank is now fully in place. They resumed work at a difficult period in the history of the bank. What are the major tasks confronting the board? How should it prioritize its intervention in the financial market? Let's discuss this issue with a Rise News analyst and director of Abuja School of Social and Political Thoughts, Dr. Sam Amadi. Thank you for joining us on Newsnight.
Thank you.
Yemi Cardoso takes over as CBN governor and the deputies as well. You know, so it looks like they have their job cut out for them. Yet again, everything rises and falls on the leader. So the focus is going to be on Yemi Cardoso. Where should he start from?
Well, I think it looks like a lot of things on the table. I mean, first, the way they entered into the scene, not the best way, especially with the controversy around the central bank, the issues around whether the tenure of the now defunct board was still, on by the time they were nominated and confirmed now, and then the question of their resignation. So, and then there's still ongoing investigation, which probably will be rounding up as we hear. So all this creates some degree of uncertainty and loss of reputation. Now, we must be clear that the last 8 years has not been very good for the central bank, its reputation, because of, even before the change of government, there's been issues around the nature of relationship between the monetary policy authority and the fiscal managers, the president. And so he has to first redefine the focus again. And this is where being a former commissioner for finance for now president, and so he has managed fiscal side of macroeconomics. Again, the close relationship. Will he try to defend the independence of the central bank again? Because independence of the central bank really is not about central bank being opposed. It's actually about central bank making decisions independent. Independence, we'll talk about cognitive independence. You are making decisions based on evidence and fact, not to help maybe government that's going through momentary crisis. And that's why the central bank is conceived as a counter-majoritarian institution, meaning you have democracy, you have parliaments, people vote, policies are made, and then the president has executive power to just make policy choices. But the central bank can become counter, when there's the urgency, political incentive to take short-term measures, whether to bring down inflation drastically or in order to help a regime pass through difficulty. The central bank would look at everything and keep that stability, not just price stability, but system, financial market stability, and economic stability. So first, that this must be a decision to say, look, we are grateful we've been appointed, but we want to return the central bank to the notion that the Central Bank Act, amended under Soludo, was looking at, which is what all central banks are going to, which is independent decision maker with regards to monetary policy.
Dr. Amadi, make me understand. Are you saying that Yemi Cardoso should, in the next few days and weeks of resumption, busy himself with whitewashing, quote unquote, the CBN, trying to regain the image of the CBN? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's the first step, because the CBN is a knowledge institution. They have the most things in place. So first, you have to look at what are the critical functions of the central bank. They're going to deal with inflation is very high now, at 25.80%. You need to try to control that. And then before now, the central bank and the Ministry of Finance have talked about unorthodox supply of dollar, either through the NNPC swap with ADB and some other efforts at generating dollar to kind of stop the devaluation as it were. So those will be ongoing. And then, of course, the central bank has to be looking at, apart from looking at the dollar aspect of it, what other ways do they need to deal with, especially food and energy inflation, which has more impact in terms of real sector. So you're going to look beyond the conventional notion of sources of inflation. Two, they're going to be looking also at confidence. Banks are all about confidence of the people. Nigerians we're happy we have not had any bank run, but there's a sense in which Nigerians feel either exploited. If you look at charges in Nigeria, if you look at the profit posted by bank owners, and coming himself being a banker, chief executive of a bank, it comes with some kind of duplicity. People say, oh, these are part of those bankers, you know. Emefiele was good for bank owners, but it wasn't good for customers, if you like, because people complain about overcharging, all kinds of charges are put in, which itself doesn't create confidence, you know, in that primary sense.
So you're talking about regaining the investor confidence, the depositors' confidence.
Absolutely. Even though we have
the banking system.
Even though we have a good deposit insurance, but the sense that people feel that, look, they've been treated fairly. Some charges are, you know, bad charges. The banks make so much money. So you need to look at that again, so that the rest of the confidence. Again, you need to look at credit. The second conventional work that banks do is credit, and credit is the process by which you stimulate the economy, provide financing for investments for small and medium enterprises. The last board tried to push banks to give up more credits, you know, to not just financing oil deals, but now looking at their customers who need overdrafts, who need credit loans to start business. So he has to look at that. Again, the prudential aspect, prudential regulation in terms of managing the banks themselves, not just to avoid solvency, which is which is rare because of most of the banks are strong through consolidation, but the liquidity crisis and other forms that could create contagion. So they need to strengthen fiscal stability, fiscal stability in terms of looking at how, financial system stability, which is where ICASO is. So these are the primary tasks, but the key thing here is how do you set out first reassuring the market? Good enough, without this crisis, we've not seen much negative impact in terms of ratings or other. Yes, of course, we are owing a lot, even our reserves, you know, and so we now discover we are seeing new information about the weakness of the system, but again, not to in a tragic sense. Yeah. Right,
Dr. Amadi. Now you spoke also about the independence of the Central Bank of Nigeria, the independence, the autonomy, if you like. Now let's look at the relationship between Cardoso and the president. How do you see the two managing that relationship in a way that it should not play down on the independence of the CBN?
That's a good question. It's first, there's cordiality and mutuality. So you would expect this is not going to be a central bank that the president will be looking down on or looking into his affairs. It could give confidence, so it helps. But again, there's this debate among economists whether developing countries actually need to emphasize too much of that independence. Some radical scholars have argued that the bank ought to be committed to the developmental projects of the state, which means they see more of the fiscal authority and the monetary authority working together, because they're looking at, say, look, don't do conventional banking, central bank like developed economies. This bank has to be an instrument for development planning and implementing development plans. So they can argue that we shouldn't be too much strong on independence. We should be strong on prudence, on integrity and competence. So even if they seem to work together more often, or even if the president seems to be dictating, many scholars will argue that as long as it doesn't lead to crisis, it's good. But the point is this, that with our politics, I think he needs to find himself somehow defending the integrity of the monetary process. Don't forget that part of Emefiele's crisis was also because he was seen as taking decisions to help government, if that includes printing more money, exceeding prudential limits in the act or in the guideline, whatever it was driven by that idea that sometimes government needs the central banker to help them tide over some momentary crisis that may tell on them, but might be not too bad in the long term, middle to long term for the economy. So independence is critical. And that's why the Act made it so, and that's why all banks, central banks are going. But the question is, independence on paper, on book, is not for independence in reality. Right. So it depends on a temperament of the central banker, the ideology of central banking, the theory of central banking, and so also how the oversight of the National Assembly, which has oversight over the central bank by virtue of enacting the law. So all these various factors will define the degree of subservience, degree of cooperation or degree of independence. Whereas we don't expect too much robust independence, we expect significant independence that we're not going to pass through this part. That we'll pass through with.
Thank you very much indeed, Dr. Amadi. What's now left is for us to wish Yemi Cardoso all the best in his new assignment. Dr. Sam Amadi, Executive Director, Abuja School of Social and Political Thought, Arise Analyst, thank you for joining us on Newsnight.